Today we're going to be talking about university and my personal experience with it and whether I believe it's something that is beneficial to people. I'm going to break this video down into two sections, which is going to be focusing on two different elements within the university experience. The first part is going to be focused on the degree itself, so the academic side of things, and the second part is going to be more on personal growth. University degrees have become something so common to do that I believe it's taken a 180 degrees. For many years, the university degree was something that at least my generation, I'm 28 now, it was drummed into us throughout college that this was the next stage of our life, and if you wanted to go and do a course that was non-university based, it was not like you were frowned upon, but it was more like, okay, well, you go on your own path, but these are the students we're going to focus on. It was very much like the second year, you are either going to university or you're not. I actually got into the University of Winchester and I was ecstatic to go. So I decided to study medieval history, or the actual course at the time was called History in the Medieval World. So very fancy name, but basically it's just a history course and it was mainly focused on the medieval era. History has always been something that I've been interested in, and I just wanted to do a degree in something that I enjoyed because I thought if I like something then I'm going to do good in it. The first thing you will notice is that it's a very different way of working. So when you are at college, you go to classes every day, you're in 5 days a week. University is very different in that you will just getting notifications come up, in that you will do 4 modules per semester. Essentially, you would literally have a 3-hour lecture plus an hour or 2 seminar a week per module. So your week, it wasn't spent in classrooms like the whole time. So most of the time you're literally outside the classroom, whether that's in the library, whether that's at home, working at a desk or a kitchen table or something, researching for essays and writing the essays, or studying for exams. It's very independent work, and I feel like from this I've gained a lot of confidence in my ability to independently work. In the job that I have now, I definitely feel like I can work alone and not ask many questions or for a lot of help because of that university degree. I do believe that's always kind of been a part of me. I do feel like I've always been a very independent person. In terms of relationships, I didn't have a boyfriend till I was 17. I was very happy just being by myself and doing my own thing. So in terms of independence, I rarely asked for help and I always looked after myself. But I feel like the degree did definitely add to that skill. So really similar to my previous point, but it is its own point. The degree gave me, or has given me, the ability to know how to prioritise my workload and have that organisation in my everyday life. Whether that means at work and I know which tasks to prioritise depending on how long it's going to take me to complete it and the date that it's due in, or even if it means organising like the weekly shop or just little things like that in life, organising events, when to meet up with my friends, and just having a calendar there and being able to see my year at a glance, you know. In our kitchen, for example, we have like a blackboard style calendar, so I'll write the dates in and I'll write the meals that we're having. I love to meal prep as well. I like knowing what we're going to have on certain days. But also we have another calendar in our walkway where you can see what we're getting up to and what events we're going to go to. So I briefly touched upon confidence, but I genuinely believe, and I've always had an extreme fear I guess, of presenting to any group of people. It doesn't matter how big they are, like it doesn't matter if it's a group of 30 people or 5 people, like, I will get stage fright. And I had to do that for maybe 1 presentation per semester. Learning to be able to publicly speak, I genuinely believe that I am awful at it still. I think there are some things that you need more practice in to be able to be an expert in, and public speaking is not one of them. I went to university to study medieval history, and I never in my life studied ancient history. So I had no idea what I was doing. I was forced to do a module in ancient history because they were full up in another module or something. So yeah, I was forced to do this in my first year, and I believe your first year grades don't count, so this is kind of a blessing in disguise that it happened then. But during this presentation where I was talking about food and drink in ancient Greece, I knew that I was talking shit. I genuinely tried to write that essay as good as possible as well, but I only got a 40 in that as well. I think I got a 50 something in my presentation, so that's not too bad. It was the hardest thing I've ever done during my degree, honestly. As a writer, I've definitely gained confidence. As an introvert who has no interest in publicly speaking, I definitely feel like I am much more of a writer. I've always loved to write. I've written articles about history. I still have 2 different accounts on Tumblr where I talk about different things, but I haven't posted on in years. So I had a history one, which I just write about mainly medieval stuff, and then I had an account dedicated to writing about science. Ever since I was a kid, I've always kept diaries, and I think that is where the origins of my writing skill began. But I just feel like writing essays during my degree has definitely developed that skill, and I can write a lot more concisely than I used to. I used to babble so much when I was a kid. Possibly my biggest skill that I have gained from university is not taking things at face value. And this sounds really weird, but it's very apt in a history degree, because when you're studying things that have happened and you have no way of proving whether they really happened in that way or not, you have to rely on propaganda and reading articles and looking at portraits and paintings, and especially in medieval history before we had cameras, there were no videos, it was mainly just text and paintings. There's a lot of work that we did where we were taught how to read something but look at the meaning behind it. So you have to think about what were the motives of the author. You have to think how they could be biased in some way, so whether they're in a particular political party or whether they were rooting for the king or queen or wanted someone else on the throne. And particularly when I studied portraits, that was one of my favourite things to do in history. If you look at medieval portraits, it's very funny to see that certain things are in style and mean certain things. So for example, if a king or a queen or a nobleman or anyone in a portrait had a dog next to them, it means they're a very loyal person. And if a woman was wearing pearls, it means that she's pure and innocent. For example, there's a really famous portrait of Elizabeth I, and she has got these pearls just by her pelvis, and it just shows that she is this virgin queen, right? That was her image, that was what she portrayed herself as. And I can't remember the name of it in particular, but that portrait has the Spanish Armada. So you'd have the first picture of the ships going in to the war, and then you'd have the second picture on the other side of her where all the ships were on fire, and that shows her success and her victory in that. But it relates so much to modern day, because when you think about it, if someone posts a reel or a YouTube video or an article or anything like that online, there are motives behind it. There is a reason why someone has posed a certain way in a picture to make themselves look better, or use Photoshop to make themselves look more pretty. It genuinely has given me this skill to just look at something with X-ray vision, which I love. It can be a curse sometimes, because you can't just look at something and go, oh, that's really nice. It's, I wonder why they've done it like that. But I love the fact that I have that analytical side to my brain. I feel like it helps me in everyday life as well, because I can kind of see through people a little bit and see what their true intentions are. Sometimes it has failed, but for the most part I feel like it is definitely something that uni has given me. So lastly, the degree itself has given me this utmost respect for history, and also for the lecturers that taught me during my degree. I've always loved learning. When I went to school, like I said, I wasn't interested in boys or anything like that. I had a few friends that I'd hang out with, but I just loved to go to school and learn. My only subject I hated was maths, and I still do. Uni's definitely fueled that passion for me. I still love going to museums when I visit a new city, and I love to read articles about, well, mainly about science now. So speaking of my passion for science, this is something I got into a couple of years after I graduated. I'm kind of annoyed that I wasn't into science during school, because I would have done an actual GCSE. I opted for, is it BTEC? BTEC. So it was just coursework based work. I don't know why I didn't like it back then. I think maybe just the way I was taught in school, it didn't really speak to me. So I feel like the teacher you have makes a massive impact on whether you like a topic. So my history teacher was lovely, and he spoke about history with such passion, and I think that's one of the reasons why I went and did it at uni. This passion for science has definitely grown, and I've written many articles about things in the universe like quasars, black holes, dwarf planets, and planets that could hold extraterrestrial life, and crazy climates on other planets like raining glass sideways, that kind of just really weird stuff that actually does exist that we could never imagine. And I think it's very similar to history in the way that before we had televisions and cameras, you will never be able to see an event take place unless you had a time machine to see that specific thing. And the same goes for the universe. Like, we will never, well, I think we will never in our lifetime be able to visit another planet and find alien life, or just see something, witness something that we have never been able to before. The first photograph of a black hole came out a few years ago, and that was just monumental. Like, that has changed history, and that will be a historical moment forever. And I remember first looking at that picture, or that photo, I was in awe. I was just amazed. But the fact that we cannot go up to these things and witness it in person, and that's exactly the same with history. You can't touch it, you cannot experience it, and that is what fascinates me so much about space. Anyway, let's move on to the personal growth aspect of university. In many ways, I feel like this is more important, and I feel like it has made more of an impact on me as a person. University was the first time I ever lived away from home. It was the first time I had to clean for myself and cook for myself and learn how a washing machine worked. It's little things like that, little chores in life that you have to do every single day when you actually have your own house, that introduces you to adult life. Not only is it the chores that you have to do to keep yourself living whilst you're not living at home, it's more the mental aspect of it, of feeling comfortable living somewhere that is not where you grew up. This is one of the hardest things that I had to sort of drum into my brain, like, this is it now, I'm at uni for 3 years. Saying that, I only lived about half an hour away from my house, so I would go up every weekend, but it was those 5 days every week where I wasn't with my family anymore that really solidified who I was as a person. I feel like it's given me great practice for me now living with my partner and having that independence, which I have actually craved for so long after going to university, because you get that taste of freedom and then you have to go back home because obviously you're not earning enough money yet. In terms of friendship, university teaches you very hard lessons. The first being living with people you'd never met before. So the first year that I went to university, it was very chaotic for me and it was very traumatic, I would say. But I moved into my halls and I met all the people there and we went out and we had such a great time. And there was one incident where we were having a conversation and something was said about someone else, and then I was like, oh yeah, I don't think I would have done that personally. And when I came back from my parents one weekend, I walked into the kitchen and all these people, like 2 halls worth of people, were all sat in the kitchen and they were like, oh yeah, we heard that you said this about so and so. They definitely twisted it, ran with it, and told this other girl. So that was an experience. So I ended up moving out of that particular residence, and it was really lucky actually. There was a guy that moved out of another dorm in another part of the campus. So I moved into his old room and my childhood friend from school actually lived in that dorm. I had an amazing second half of the year. Everyone was so nice. We all just, you know, when you just click with people, that was genuinely what it was. We'd go out to the pub, we'd watch rugby, we'd go out for drinks. Even if we were just at home, you know, we would watch movies and just laugh at them, and it was such a great time. In my third year, I decided to live with 3 other girls who I met in my first year. It started off absolutely fine, but living with people was very different than just being friends with them and seeing them during the day and then going home. So you will find that different people have different routines and different values is probably the right word to say. So for example, there was this girl who I did go to school with, the same girl that I talked about before, and she would just cook chicken, and there was an incident where she left raw chicken on the side, like not even on a tray, just on the kitchen side, and then she would leave raw chicken in the sink in a bowl. She would leave her clothes in the dryer and all the little finicky things that annoy people, but as a very neat person, it was so annoying. Me and this girl called Daisy, who I'm still friends with to this day, she's amazing, I love her. We formed this incredible friendship during our time living together. We spent basically all our time together, and I think the reason was because we liked similar things, we had the same values, same sense of humour. I'm pretty sure we still do. Even though I barely see her, it's one of those things where you're friends with someone and you know you're always going to be friends with them no matter what. We had that, and then there was another girl we were friends with in the house, and she would go between this other girl and us and just like repeat stuff, so she'd just be like a double agent. It happens. I think being in close quarters with a bunch of girls is a really hard thing to do, especially if you're all very different. It can be good, it can be beneficial to have different personalities, but when you have different values going on and different levels of hygiene, it doesn't work. I think what I've learned from it is what truly makes a friendship, like how you know you're going to be friends with someone for the rest of your life. There are many friendships that are very shallow, like it doesn't go any deeper than that. There's no significance to it. It's just you're friends, you hang out, and that's that. And I had many days where we would just sit around and watch films, like I said, in first year. We'd do that in third year, just us girls, and it was incredible. Being a girl, the best form of advice I could give you is having at least a year of living with other girls, because it just teaches you a whole bunch about people, but it also gives you those times where you're just hanging out. Learning who you're actually going to be friends with for the rest of your life is definitely something university has taught me. I now know what to look for in friendships. Actions forever will speak louder than words. So I have a best friend called Amy. She is there for me when I need her, and I am there for her when she needs me. That is it. There is no question about it. But we also respect each other's space as well. So those kind of friendships are the one, and I won't accept anything less. So a really boring one, but it is important to touch upon, is financial awareness. University has given me that, hands down. It's given me the experience of paying bills, having that standing order set up, and not spending money on unnecessary items. I feel like it's really easy for me to say this because I've always been a saver rather than a spender. Even when I was younger, when I would go shopping in town with friends, it wasn't something I looked forward to. It was more spending time with the friends that I would look forward to, rather than shopping for tops and necklaces and stuff like that. So yeah, I've always been a saver, and uni has drummed that more into me and has given me that personal responsibility of knowing that I have these bills to pay, I have this much to spend on shopping for this week. This is the real tea. Is university worth it? If you're studying a degree that will directly lead you to a specific career and you need that degree to do that job, definitely worth it. But even though I studied something that I just enjoyed, I do feel like in the back of my mind I thought, oh, I'll go into heritage, which I did, to be fair. I was in heritage for a good 4 years. I still feel like it was worth it for me because of the lessons that I've learned. It's given me confidence as my own self. I will never change myself for anybody else. In a workspace, you kind of put a little bit of a persona on so that you come across Like, you definitely know what you're talking about, which I do. But you're a little bit more eloquent at work, I would say. I don't think a lot of people would disagree with that. I genuinely believe if you want to learn how to live independently, uni is a great choice to learn that. But then again, you could just move out and get a job and just live independently. So it all depends on what you want to do with your life and your career. But meeting so many different people during uni, it's so beneficial because you get to learn about different cultures and different people's opinions and values and why they might think a certain way and why they have those views, and just having friendships that may last your whole life. It's a beautiful thing, really. And that's why I do believe uni was a genuinely positive experience for me. During the first year, there were times where it really wasn't positive and I just wanted to go back home and call it quits. But I spent a few months actually, just travelling from home to uni to do my degree, and that shows that I was committed to completing it. I learned so much from the bad experiences. I feel like I've learned a lot more from the bad experiences than the positive ones, which is kind of sad in a way, but I've learned so much, and I do not think I would be the person I am today if I hadn't have gone. I'm going to use that as the footer of this video. That is going to be the footnote. It is completely up to you. I do feel like it's a very different time now. As I said, there has been a 180 shift and that people don't think it's worth it anymore. It's also your decision on what you study as well. So please don't let anybody pressure you in studying a certain subject, because it will give you a better career. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you wanted me to talk about anything else in terms of like more detail within the degree or other things that I've learned, but there's going to be loads of other things that I haven't covered today but I just haven't thought of yet, then just let me know. But yeah, until next time, I will see you in my next video.